Hey everyone, my guest on the Talkative Chick podcast today is Joe Kilgallon. He's a Chicago based comedian, but he also travels around the US doing comedy. He headlined recently at my show, Chicagoland Stand Up at Hobart Art Theater, and he was amazing. People loved him. I love his comedy. I like comedy that pushes the envelope. I also like comedy that has a little bit of a rant to it, and that's definitely his style of comedy, and I really enjoy him. He's one of my favorite Chicago comics. We talked comedy, we talked our dads passing away, grief, and different forms of like everybody's grief is different and everybody's passing away story is different. We also talked life. You can catch him on his YouTube channel, Joe Kilgallon. He has a podcast with one of his good friends called Let's Get Dumb. He's got several specials on there. You can also see him on Punchup.live / Joe Kilgallon. And that also has all his ticket links and where you can catch him in Chicago. He's a producer for CYSK, Comedians You Should Know in Chicago. And we also talk about the New York based one because I was wondering if it was affiliated. So you'll hear that on the podcast. This show is on Wednesday nights. It's in downtown. It's one of the prestigious Chicago comedy shows. It's hard to get on, and it's a good one. So I hope you really enjoy the episode. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, comment if you wish. Thanks so much for listening. I mean, just the fact that you would, turn on your headphones and or TV or whatever and listen to this. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I think it was a great episode. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Bye. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you on the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I guess you are Irish for sure, right?
That's
Have
my
you done
background. That's my. I've not done a DNA thing, but as far as I know, my older sister is a history teacher, so she had like a discount to Ancestry.com for like census stuff.
Okay.
So we traced it all back to Ireland. I think I have a little Welsh though on my mother's side.
Oh, okay.
But because I was told, my mom had told me that her grandmother was born in Wales, which I did find to be true. But her parents had lived in Ireland. They went from Ireland to Wales, but I found no record of that. So
Oh,
who knows? It's
wow.
harder when you
Yeah.
get into the European records. They want more money out of you. I've
Oh,
never done a
okay.
DNA swab or anything.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I have a friend that did, and he was so disappointed because he was only like 5% Irish, and he was like, "I'm Irish." Like his whole life, he was like so proud of being
He thought
Irish.
he was mostly Irish, huh?
Yeah, and then I don't know how that happened, but
You know, I put it where but someone else told me a similar story. And I think what happens is sometimes you move to a city, depending, or you move to a new town, and it's like,
okay.
oh, it's cool to be this thing here. So some grandparent probably said, I'll
Mhm.
lie and say I'm that. I could pass for that.
Yeah,
And it's not only Irish, but like maybe somewhere else they might be, if they're in New
yeah,
York, they might lie and say they're Italian when really they're like Albanian or something just to fit in,
yeah, probably.
thinking, oh, our cultures are similar enough. Why not?
Yeah.
What did he find out he was, though, instead? Scottish or some
I
Welsh?
think so. Definitely European
Because he
descent,
had to
but
look it,
not.
right?
Yeah, I kind of felt like he looked Irish, and his mom looks Irish too. And his
Yeah.
mom, I think, was like 25%. She was a little bit more, but yeah, he was just really distraught that he wasn't. But I believe both parents were Irish or said they were Irish. You know what I mean? So he really thought he was going to have a big percentage.
Yeah, I don't know what I would
Yeah.
be other than that little corner of the globe, just looks wise. I mean,
Yeah.
I've met people from there. I'm as pasty as they are.
Yeah, you definitely
The
look Irish. I would be shocked if
reddish
you
hair, the
weren't.
blue eyes, that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't done it, but I'm supposedly Mexican, even though I look really white.
You look Mexican
Do
though.
I?
Yeah,
Okay, really?
definitely. But it's interesting though, I know some Mexican people that, it's not like 100%. How do I explain this? So here's a good example. The
Okay.
boxer Canelo Alvarez. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Great boxer, one of the best in the world. He has red hair. People have often asked, "How do you, a Mexican man, have red
Right.
hair?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I think there was a great grandfather that might have been from Ireland down the way, or great great
Mm-hmm.
grandfather." And so I was kind of like, that's interesting. And I didn't know this history.
Okay.
This is a true story. Like in the 1870s, when one of the bigger waves of Irish immigrants came over, they're in the to get citizenship quick, you join the army. So
Mm,
they were to fight against Mexico when they had that war over Texas going on. So
okay.
the Irish people, though, these freshly, new Irish immigrants to America, new to America, I should say, they heard the Mexican side and was like, we're going to go fight with these guys actually, because
Hmm.
they found they had more in common with that struggle. And Mexicans are Catholic, Irish are Catholic.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
abandoned the American military and joined the Mexican military and started like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like a regime or something
Okay.
called San Patrico or whatever, however you say St. Patrick in
Yeah.
Spanish.
San
Yeah,
Patrico or
yeah, something like that.
Patricio.
Patricio, thank you,
Patricio.
San
I don't know why
Patricio.
I was
Yeah,
losing
look it up.
that.
It's pretty cool history to read about.
Huh.
It's kind of hilarious to be like, now you guys sound like the dicks. We're gonna go join them instead. So that's why you
Oh.
might, maybe you got a little whiteness from that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but I definitely feel like I have more European. I feel like my brothers look more Mexican than I do, but and my mom definitely was she was shorter and Mexican, but like she also had a brother that was blonde and blue-eyed. So I do get
Yeah,
that there can be Latins that do not or
sure.
have, more Caucasian features or whatever you want to call it. Or European, I should probably say.
Do you think
European
these?
features.
I'm sure you didn't plan on talking about DNA tests so much, but do you think I question the accuracy of some of these things though? Because I've
Okay.
heard stories from friends who are like, "Oh, my sister and I, we have the same four things, but she's more of one thing than I am," and I'm like, "Well, that just seems weird." And other people saying stuff like, mine came back 97% this one thing, but my sister's came back 92%, but then she has a little bit of French, but I don't have French on mine. And I'm like, well,
Uh-huh.
clearly that's an error in the test then. And then they say,
Okay.
or I didn't inherit any of the French DNA. And I go, well, that's still bizarre. Now, if there's
Mm,
sometimes there where it's enough of a discrepancy where it's like, all right, well,
yeah.
someone lied to you. You don't have the same parent, clearly. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
weird
so
shit like
it's
that
like
that happens a lot. But I just, like, there's a part of me
huh.
that's like, could you really look under a magnifying glass
Mhm.
and tell the difference between Norwegian spit and Swedish spit? Could you, like, what are the odds of that? I
No,
think
I wonder how they run it
someone told
through.
me they use markers, and if your markers line up with enough of a group of people in a certain region, then they
Okay,
just go, you're part of
you're
this.
that.
That's why when these
Huh.
tests first came out, people would come back being like, "It says that I'm 100% European." And I'm like, "You had to spit in a cup to figure that out, dummy. Look in the mirror. I could have told you that for less than $100." And then as time went on, they would get
Yeah,
like updates, and the
okay.
updates would say, "Oh, I'm actually like 35% Northwest Europe and
Oh,
45% Eastern Europe." And I'm like, "All right, but still, they're just doing a whole, that's a pretty massive amount of land there."
yeah,
So I think as they get
yeah.
more and more people spitting into tubes, they're getting more of a baseline where they could go, all right, there's enough markers
Mm,
here as these people who are from this region. So our best guess is that, and they probably know your name. You put your name in. I don't know if you
yeah,
put your social security number in, but if you
I
put
hope
your
not.
name in,
Right.
they could probably look you up and factor in a few things. That's
Yeah,
my guess.
I wonder.
I think they combine science with a lot of guessing, which is sometimes what science is,
Yeah, I guess
educated
so.
guess, a hypothesis.
I've always wondered, I mean, yeah, I wasn't gonna talk about all this, but, like, genealogy too, like, one of my friends gets really into genealogy, and she kinda helped this one man kind of find, um his siblings and stuff, and she can map out I don't know how she does it, it's like the family tree thing. And then I know, like, through science too, like, they can look at your blood or DNA and see if, you have the genes for cancer or the genes
Yeah.
for whatever, and I just recently went and got tested because my mom passed away from breast cancer and my dad passed away from bladder cancer, which was really weird because he wasn't a big smoker. I think it was that medicine Actos, I mean, not to be all grim, but
Yeah.
that I think he was taking Actos for some period of time. I never chased that. I was just because, like, the ads on TV, you could go I don't know. I just was like, whatever. But so anyway, so I'm always kind of like, oh God, I don't have, I don't want to have cancer. And forever, I didn't want to do the Brock. The Brock is like the breast one, and I was like, I don't know, because like, what if it's positive, and that's gonna really, fuck with my head, because that's all I'm gonna think about
I'm
then.
like that sometimes where I'm like, I'd rather not know. But then it's like people tell you you're dumb for thinking that because if it's easily treatable, then find out. But
Yeah. So anyway, so I went in and I got tested for 89 different strands. This was another weird thing. She was like, "Do you want to test for 20 or do you want to test for 89?" And I go, "Well, is it the same price?" And she said, "Yes."
well, then do 89. What kind
Wait,
of
what?
dumbass question is that? Yeah, you know,
I was like, "Why would I leave like what is that 59 on the table?"
of course.
Like, "Yeah, let's do all 89, you know?" So everything came back negative. So that was
That's great.
great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. And, I think a lot of it is exposure or whatever, like, maybe my parents were exposed to something that I wasn't. I hope to God, I don't know. But yeah, it's just really, really weird, um, how that all came about, but
Yeah, the human body's a crazy thing.
yeah, it's totally. So you've been a comedian for quite a bit, right?
Yeah,
How long?
yeah, a
How
long
long has it
time.
been?
It's been years total because I like to minus the pandemic year.
Well, that's a
Like
good minus, yeah.
16 years now,
Okay.
17, I believe, right around there.
Yeah, and some people minus the open mic years too. I don't know why, but I've heard of
Whatever.
that.
There's different reasons for people to minus things. I feel like for a while, I remember my one friend said, "You've been doing this for 15 years." When I was really only like 13 years in, I go, "I'm
Yeah.
not 13." He's like, "I'm rounding up for you. It makes it look better." I'm like, "Not to me, it doesn't, because I'm
Right.
not the most famous person in the world. So therefore,
Yeah.
less years is on my side. I
Yeah,
can
I
always become that
agree.
eventually. Not that
Yeah.
that's what I want, but like we all have these little,
Right.
things that make us go, fuck, does that make me look bad that I've been doing it for this long, but I've only accomplished this much? And I think as a lot of communities, you got to get over that kind of thing. You can't,
Yeah.
comparison is the thief of joy. And, for
Yeah.
the number of stories of people that were huge stars after X amount of years versus people who became big stars after this many years, it goes back and forth. And, I could show you a great comedian who everyone knew their name when they were 7 years in. And I could show you an even better comedian that nobody knew who the hell they were until they were 19 years in.
Mhm.
And guess what? The person who wasn't famous till 19 years in was probably better than the person that
Yeah.
everyone knew at 7 years in. Because it's
Yeah.
like more famous does not equal better.
Yeah.
I think a
I
lot
would
of people
agree with
think
that,
that.
yeah, and I feel like there's different types of personalities in comedy too, whereas some people are just like, "I'm gonna grind, and when I get discovered or whatever, I'll get discovered," but nowadays, it's more about being the go-getter too and putting yourself out there and clips and clips and clips. Because if not, you'll never be discovered, you know? So I think a lot of that I feel like I don't know, I was hearing a different podcast, and they were saying that, like, sometimes exposure doesn't really mean good, like, you can be exposed, but you're not as great of a comedian as somebody that isn't exposed. I see that a lot. Like, I feel a lot of Chicago comics should be on Netflix because
Definitely.
from some of the specials that we see on Netflix, I'm like, wow,
All the time.
like
I see it, I hear it. I think Chicago's gonna have its moment. I mean, Chicago's been known forever as this incredible breeding ground. And then eventually they say to Chicago comedians, when are you gonna go to New York or LA? And that mindset needs to change a little bit. And I think it's already starting to. Like I lived in LA for a few years. I was one of
oh,
the people
okay.
that's like, I gotta go too. That's what you do. You
Yeah.
go. So
Okay.
in 2014, I moved to LA. I lived there till halfway through 2017 and then moved back.
Okay.
My oldest son was born in LA.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
so
Wow.
he was only in LA for a few months. Then the reason we moved back was for family reasons. I wanted my son to grow up around everyone. Anyhow, so it was one of those
Mm,
things where I think with the way everything has changed now, more and more people are breaking through via the internet, so they don't have to be on a coast.
yeah.
I opened for this comedian Scott Cease. He was in Cocaine Bear. He's a very, very funny stand-up comedian. I think he's actually underrated as a comedian because people think of him as being an comedic actor now, but he was also a guy that blew up on TikTok because he was doing these, like he worked at IKEA, which he did in real life. So he
Okay.
was doing like these customer service videos. And it was always the same music where a customer would ask a dumb question, then he'd
Mhm.
respond with a funny answer.
Mhm.
And the videos went massively viral.
Okay.
Because I remember seeing them all the time. And then when the Den Theater was like, "Hey, can you open for this guy on this date?" I'm like, "Who is this?" And I looked him up. I'm like, "Oh, that dude. Oh, cool." And then I
Yeah.
remember talking to him, and he even kind of was like, "I've been doing stand up in Baltimore for the last
Oh,
10 years."
wow.
So he didn't
Yeah.
put in like I think it was about 10 years. He'd
Okay.
put in the time, and it was just like something his wife had an idea like, "Hey, why don't you make videos out of that? That'd be funny." Because like he'd always complain about his day job.
Yeah.
And so it was 2021, I think. Pandemic, stuff was still kind of locked down through
Mhm.
good chunks of the country. Threw the videos out there, and then blew up. and now he sells out everywhere he goes. He's gotten
Wow.
acting, opportunities through it
Mhm.
and all that other kind of stuff. And if he was one of those people that's like, no, I just got to stay true to the art of stand up and I got to be a grinder and I got to hit 50 open mics a week. It's like, then
Yeah.
he's still broke in Baltimore. He didn't have to move to a coast. But the greater point is, for the comics out there who are like, I don't want to do reels, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's fine. The way I see it is there's two main paths right now. I mean, obviously there's 35, 45 different paths, a million. But
Right.
the two most obvious ones right now for stand-up comedians, you could keep getting good and wait around for industry to discover you. How's that going to go without you moving somewhere? You probably have to
Mhm.
move somewhere and hope they're in the crowd, which again, you're putting
Mhm.
a lot of hope on timing.
Yeah.
Or you could continue to get good, which either way you have to continue to get good.
Mhm.
Then find something to put content out there. Create your own content. And the nice thing about creating your own content is when you do build up that fan base, they're going to come knocking on your door and you're going to have all the leverage because you have all the eyeballs. You will
Yeah.
not need them.
That's
They'll
true.
need you. So, and to the comics out there
Mhm.
who are frustrated, being like, "Oh, I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to do this shit."
Mhm.
Well, quit, or I'm sorry, that's the truth of it.
Yeah,
Or
it's the
just be
way it's
content.
going.
And if you don't want to do it, be content in the place that you're in. Because my thing that
Mhm.
bothers me is when I hear people say, "I don't want to do that," and then they complain and complain and complain. Like, all right,
Mhm.
that's fine. Don't do it, but shut the fuck up because that's what it takes now.
Yeah.
And it's better now, I think. I think it's way better now.
Yeah.
It used to be you have to wait around. You had to wait. You had to get
Yeah.
lucky. You had to hope they were there. You had to hope they liked you. And who the fuck are they? Right?
Yeah.
The industry essentially was for a long time was 6 or 7 people in some Santa Monica office,
Mhm.
another 5 or 6 people in some Manhattan office. Do they know
Mhm.
comedy better than anyone in Munster, Indiana, anyone in Chicago, anyone in Iowa,
Right.
Ohio, wherever? No, they don't. And that's where I do love the internet for a lot. I mean, I fucking hate it a lot too, don't get me wrong, but and everyone, and I know I'm going on a long rant here,
No,
but
it's good.
the
I like the
opportunity that
ranting.
the opportunity that's created is immensely better than the headaches that we have to deal with going, fuck, I got to caption a video. I think that way all the time. It's like, shit, I gotta learn a new social media app. I gotta learn a new this.
Yeah.
It sucks, but doing stand-up comedy is so amazing that it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't just be
Mhm.
like there's a little more things you have to do if you want to be able to do that the rest of your life and get paid well for it too, you
Yeah.
know?
So you do your own clips and everything, or do you send them to somebody to
No, I
do
do my
them?
own
Okay.
clips. I had a little help for a
Oh,
minute, but I couldn't afford it for very long.
yeah.
But for the vast majority, I do my own clips. I've paid people to have directed my specials and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
That's the price. You got to save up a lot of money, sell tickets, and hope the ticket sales money will go help cover the cost
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, no, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
You have to.
So you film your own sets wherever you go. Like if you're doing 12 minutes somewhere, it's not a special, then you try to film it
I will
yourself?
try to. Well, I've been very blessed and fortunate enough where the last I feel like it's really changed over the last 8 to 10 months. I don't even wanna say it's been a full year. I did your wonderful show in November, and when
Yeah.
you sent the
Thank you.
message saying, "Oh, by the way, I have someone filming," I'm like, "Yes." I got
Yeah.
so excited.
Yeah.
I've been blessed where a lot of the really great shows I've been doing, they have a camera set up already.
Yeah. That's
Whether
good.
I'm at Zanies or the Laugh Factory, they film.
Mhm.
Comedians You Should Know films. A lot of the shows that are independently run, Lincoln Lodge, they're starting to put up clips and film now. I think
Mhm.
everybody's seen the value and the currency in filming your shows. It's great
Yeah.
advertisement. What's really helped me a lot is I did the St. Charles Funny Bone, which is just outside of St. Louis. It's technically
Okay.
called the St. Louis Funny Bone, but it's in St. Charles, Missouri.
Okay.
And we sold out a lot of the shows, and the
Oh,
weather was horrible. It was like -5 and all that. And I don't have
oh,
a big
oh.
following. I've got I mean, on TikTok, I've got like over 50,000, but like
Okay.
Instagram, I've got like 4,000. I've got nothing on Instagram.
Okay.
But what helped me was that they saw my name on the Comedy Club's website, and they go, "All right, who's this guy?" Googled me, and I have a lot of inside.
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, this guy's hilarious. Let's buy a ticket." Where if say I didn't have a lot of content,
Mhm.
it'd be like, "Well, we don't really know who this guy is. He's only got a couple of clips."
Yeah.
It just kind of it makes you more legit. But I will
Yeah.
say this: if you're a young comedian, I think if you're 5 years or under,
Okay.
4 years or under, don't even concern yourself with that.
Thank you for saying
Do
that
not
because
concern yourself with that at all.
yeah.
I
There
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, way too many young comedians who are asking about clips. I'm like, "How long you been doing it?" And they're like, "3 years." I'm like, "How old are you?" 23. I'm like, "Dude, the number of famous comedians at the age of 23 or the number of
Mhm.
famous comedians, like or not even famous, fuck the word famous. The number of
Right.
truly great comedians who became great in their 20s, you could count on one hand.
Yeah.
It's just like why give a fuck about it? All your
Yeah.
focus should be is to be as good as possible, get on stage as much as possible, and figure it out that way. Then once you'll know when you're consistently killing all the time. That's when it's like, all right, let's hit record.
Mhm.
And but until then, don't worry about it. Just be happy to be part of your local scene. Keep your day job. Hang out with comedians. The early days of stand-up comedy, I look back on incredibly fondly, and I miss them tremendously. They
Oh,
were so much fun. I know I
okay.
romanticize them probably a little bit now, but they were because there was no expectation. You were just doing it,
Yeah.
and every little thing was joyous. Like, oh my God,
Mhm.
that joke that had been bombing for the last 2 weeks that I was this close to getting rid of.
Mhm.
I decided to tell it because I got the light and I had nothing else. It fucking killed. I don't know
Yeah.
what I did differently. And then you talk to your comedian friends. They go, oh, you know what you did differently? You said this first instead of that part. That
Okay.
sets it up better and it flows. And you're like, oh shit, that's what I did. Thanks, dude. Let's fucking go
Mhm.
get some shots. Like, and then it's the best
Yeah.
because there's no expectations. I
Yeah.
think a lot of comedians nowadays, like I remember working with some 22-year-old not that long ago. I mean, I could tell like if he keeps at it, he'll be really good, down the line.
Mhm.
But I could tell he's growing up with like stand-up comedy is insanely popular right now. It really is. I don't think a lot of us even realize it. But I think he's growing up with the world of like, I want to have a video go viral on TikTok, I want a video go viral on Instagram. Because all of his
Yeah.
friends are saying to him now, hey, dude, you should post on TikTok. You should
Mhm.
post on Instagram because all the comedians I like do that.
Mhm.
But instead of him being like, well, I'm not ready for that yet,
Mhm.
because he wants to look like the shit in front of his friends,
Right.
they're posting bad clips. I've seen some clips. I saw one
Oh,
person post a clip where I'm like, dude, the whole front row is empty.
yeah.
Why would you post this clip? Even
I
though you sound good, it looks
agree.
horrible. Like, what
Yeah.
are you doing, man?
Bad clips are better than or worse than no clip for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you
I've
see a
seen
lot of
some.
that. Where like when we were starting to get into comedy, people
Mhm.
our age were probably saying to us, "Hey, when are you going to get on Letterman? When are you going to get on Conan? When are you going to get on
Mhm.
that?" But
Mhm.
that's nothing now. Like
Yeah.
18-year-old kids don't get their stand up from late night. And at least back then, when I was starting out,
Mhm.
like 2008, my friends weren't saying to me, "When are you going to get on Conan?" Because they know it takes time. Because that takes a long time.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
them, it's like, go film your set and post it on Instagram now. Like that.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I worry about with the younger generation, that there could be some good comedians who get lost in the shuffle or just get depressed because they tried to force it way
Mhm.
too early on and it turns them off from the whole process.
Oh,
So
yeah,
they quit.
I was there, like, probably last year. I was like, I gotta film," and I was talking to people that film, like, in Chicago, like Justin, and then I'm like, "How much do you charge?" And, like and I just noticed that, yeah, I gave up because well, on filming, because if is there something psychological, like, I just don't do well, like, I do the film is there, and I don't do well, or
I
and,
have
like,
that too.
it's so ridiculous, and then there's times where I was like, I killed it, I'm like, "Man, I wish I would've recorded that," and then, but yeah, it's kinda like it's just I was like, Susanna, just concentrate on being a good comedian because you have to be a good comedian to get
Yeah.
a good clip, you
And
know?
that's the right attitude to have. And
Yeah.
I think, as comedians listening, record the audio on your phone, or you could film it on your phone because at least it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
You could buy a cheap iPhone tripod for $12 on Amazon. You want to, put it on some table in the back of the club or back of whatever bar or show you're doing
Yeah.
and film that fine just for the sake of studying. Just to
Yeah.
be like, here's what I did right and wrong. How's my
Mhm.
posture? Do I look confident up there? Am I connecting with them? What's going on? Because I remember I had one comedian friend who was like, dude, I didn't realize I looked down so often.
Mm.
He filmed himself and he realized he would,
Yeah.
he thought he was looking out the crowd, but he's actually looking down. He's like, no
Yeah.
wonder I'm not getting big laughs. I look fucking scared. And I'm like, well, I don't have to tell you. But yeah. So, that happens.
Yeah, it's good. It is good to study yourself. I mean, I kinda beat myself up a little too much, and I'm like, "Okay, so now you're learning, whatever." But, like, there was one set I said the same word over and over, like, I think it was, I'm like, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
said it like 50 times, like, how did that happen, And then I didn't realize it when I was up there. When I was up there, it was sounding streamlined, and I was not repeating myself. It's just really bizarre, but
Everybody has those little things. And why would you know? Because it's part of your regular speech. And sometimes they're not so bad. Sometimes I'll say, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It just depends. Or I was saying right a lot. I'm like, right? Yeah. And I was like, fuck, I gotta stop saying that so much. But yeah, you're not gonna notice that. And the thing is, if you there's those some comedians might say, well, you just stick to what you write. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, but then I could always tell when a comedian overwrites. I think that's the thing.
Mhm.
I'll see certain comedians where I'm like, "Oh, man, I could tell you wrote the shit out of that joke." Meaning you
Mm.
wrote it
Mhm.
and you memorized your script so much, and now
Mm.
you're going up there trying to act. You're trying to act like you are saying this for the first time or whatever, and it's just not coming off correctly. But
Mm.
it works differently for everybody. I think you wanna sound conversational, but you also want to hit all the parts that make the joke the joke. You
Yeah.
wanna hit the premise, you wanna hit this part, add that tag, do all that. But I think if you go up there where you're sounding robotic, which I've seen people do, I'd rather hear a couple you knows and a couple ums, but the
Mhm.
punchline sounds authentic
Mhm.
than someone up there who are, like, kind of doing their and
How
this
can you
happens.
tell? Is it
I
just
could
not
just tell.
natural? It's just
If
like
it
the
if it I could tell when people are coming off not natural.
Mm.
Maybe that's I don't know how to explain it. It
Yeah.
comes from years of playing poker. Like, in my I was part of the big poker craze
Yeah.
almost 20 years ago now.
Okay.
I remember it was, early it started when I was in high school, like 2003,
Okay.
2004, and then through 2008. I remember I played poker regularly. There was a
Oh,
stretch
wow.
when I was 21 where I was probably playing 4 nights a week.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I took it very seriously. I was reading books, I was playing, the stakes were getting higher. Yeah,
Oh
all
my
that kind of stuff.
god. And you, like, gambled all the time with it and
Yeah, and I did better than
Oh,
most. I
wow.
did
That's
okay with it.
cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
but, and I think you learn to read people, and I can
Mhm.
kinda tell when someone's being a little phony. So I'm only saying
Mm.
that because you were giving yourself a hard time by saying you know too much,
Mhm.
and it's like, yeah, you don't wanna say it so much that it becomes like where everyone in the crowd's like, "Damn, that's a
Mhm.
crutch." You don't
Mm.
want it to sound like a crutch.
Right.
But in the same regard, I wouldn't be so hung up on getting rid of every little these are normal parts of speech.
Yeah.
People say, you know. People say like. People, that's how people talk.
Right.
You wanna sound like a person up there. You
Yeah.
wanna sound like a funny person up there. So, if I wouldn't beat yourself up too much over those little, you know
Idiosyncrasies or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was what I was trying to think,
Idiosyncrasy.
but
That's a big
I
word.
I was gonna butcher it, the pronunciation, so I decided not to.
Yeah. It's good to hear all this stuff as a young comic because it's like, yeah, things I wanna learn for sure, just to be natural. I think my last Laugh Factory, I felt most natural. I did a Patty Vasquez and Friends, and I don't
Nice.
know what it was. I just felt free. I felt like I was just talking to people. I wasn't like, you know, performing. It was good. But and I did a little bit of crowd work. Like how many years in were you doing crowd work?
Well, I got started early because I did so many bad shows. So many bad shows early where because the scene wasn't great when I started. It really wasn't. There was a few hot shows that everyone wanted to get on, and then after that, you kind of just I would do these shows in by the way, I've been all over Northwest Indiana. I've
Okay.
done shows in Griffith. I've done shows in LaPorte. I've done shows in Crown Point. I've done shows in Cedar Lake. I've done shows in like pretty much this entire region, Portage, Indiana,
Mhm.
Valparaiso, all of it. Because this one dude in my like first couple years would just drive out and drive around and go into bars that he thought maybe would want to do a show. He
Oh,
went
okay.
all over, so he set up these shows and all over Illinois and Wisconsin. I've done shows where,
Mhm.
but sometimes you get there and you walk in, and I'd look at the dude who booked the show, and because he was the comic, he would host it usually. And I'd go up
Mhm.
in the middle, and then eventually I'd start to go at the end,
Mhm.
and I would look at him and be like, "Jesus Christ, dude, this is gonna be horrible." They got they have like loud, gaming machines over there.
Oh,
Those poker
yeah.
slot things. They've got like Big Buck Hunter on full blast. The TVs. There's no separate room.
Right.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
where are we going to perform? Oh, right there where the kitchen door swings open. Like, what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah.
So, in order to survive those, I got very good at crowd work because you had to go up. You couldn't just go up there shouting your material. You
Mhm.
had to kind of go up there and be like, "Hey, what's up, everybody? Yo, my man over there with the hat, nice hat. Oh yeah, well, just kind of
Mhm.
fuck around with them a little bit." But there's a right and wrong way to do that. And trial by fire. I'd learn when you did it wrong, you'd get eaten alive, and they'd want to fight you, basically. You know what I mean? So I had to learn how to mess with people, talk with people, and then you could slide into your material once
Mhm.
you had them listening. Because the whole thing was to try to get them to listen.
Yeah.
There's actually a really young comedian who I like a lot. Uh, Gave her a little tiny piece of advice because I've seen her do very, very well. I've seen her do great. And this one set she did pretty good, but I still remember being like, man, she would have started a little stronger, but I know why she didn't start strong. And I told her afterwards, I'm like, you have what I had and what a lot of comedians have when you're pretty new, like 4 years,
Mhm.
up to your first 4 or 5 years, you're doing this. What I called open mic voice. But so many open mics are so bad that comedians will naturally be louder than they need to be
Okay.
because we're
Yeah.
trying to get everyone's attention,
Mhm.
right? That's what we're all desperate for is attention. Look at me, look at me. So you're doing an
Yeah.
open mic where the audience is 35, 40 other comedians who want to go up. They're
Yeah.
not jazzed that you're up right now. They're not excited. So
Mhm.
to get their attention, though, you have to yell and be like, hey, I'm here. What's up?
Mhm.
Come on. And so her set started that way after two people's who sets who were kind of quiet, so that the audience was going, whoa, shit. That's stuff that you just learn through experience and time.
Yeah.
I never try to give people like advice on like how to write a joke or how to be funny because some of that stuff, that's some of those roads you have to walk alone. But I could give
Mhm.
advice on little things where it's like, oh, if the comedian before you kills and does
Mhm.
great, your opening line should be given up for that comedian one more time. Even if the host did it,
Mhm.
you need to do it too. Because if the crowd's still buzzing off of that performance,
Yeah.
they're not going to give you the time of day when you start. So you need to
Mhm.
go up there and be like, hey, everyone give it up for so and so one more time. Because then it tells the whole audience, oh, you're in the room too.
Okay.
And I learned that in an open mic when I was just starting out. Because Kyle Kinane was coming back to town. Kyle Kinane started in Chicago.
Mhm.
It's massive. He sells out of tours and stuff like that. Right now, he's huge. He hysterically funny too. Deserves everything he's gotten. He was just coming back through Chicago, and he
Mhm.
was a big star in the scene for a while because he started here. So everyone was excited to see him. I was nobody. I was maybe a year in, and I got bumped a couple times or already in the night, and then I was getting bumped again for Kyle.
Okay.
The host was just like, "Hey, Kyle Kinane's going up, man. You'll go up after him, though. Sorry, I bumped you a couple times." And that's just how it goes sometimes. A lot of young
Yeah.
comedians will be like, "What's bullshit? Get bumped." It is bullshit, but get really good, and then you'll do the bumping, and it all evens out at the end. I mean, it's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, and he went up and killed. And
Yeah.
everybody and all of his friends who were living in the city that he came up with were still
Mhm.
there. They were all like, because I guess he just moved out like a year or two before, and so I'm like, fuck, how am I going to get their attention? They're not going to
Right.
say listen to a damn word I have to say.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, right when the host handed me the mic, I was like, give it up for Cal Kinane one more time. Holy shit, that was amazing. Seriously, keep it going for Kinane. And then
Mhm.
it made him stop because he heard me giving it up for him. So he
Mhm.
stopped and told his friends, oh, shh. And then he looked at me. And I did the set I had
Wow.
prepared and it did great. And I remember getting off stage and he was like, hey, great set, man. I'm like, hey, thanks, dude. You too. It was amazing. And then all those older comedians
Yeah.
who would give a fuck about me because they wanted to talk to their boy, it forced them to watch me. And then they were like, oh, yeah, this dude's funny. So then going
Wow.
forward, whenever I went to the open mics, because I was getting booked on shows. They
Mhm.
were like, "Oh yeah, that dude's funny. Hey Joe, what's up, man?" How are you?" And then stuff
Mhm.
like that. But so that advice I could give to younger comedians.
Okay. Yeah.
I've told people this too. I saw a friend recently. He did comic before murdered. He ran up there and did a bit immediately. Open like, and I go, dude, they didn't hear half of that shit.
Yeah.
They're still buzzing off the previous performer.
Yeah.
Settle. You know what I mean? Like, also here's advice: take your time getting to stage depending on the room.
Mm.
Obviously, if there's 7 people in the room, get your ass up there. But if you're doing a
Mhm.
packed room, don't go running up there. I've seen hosts be like, your next comedian coming to the stage is Kevin De Bruyne. And then before they finish the last name De
Yeah.
Bruyne, Kevin is like taking the mic from them.
Yeah.
That's a shout out to the best midfielder in the world. He plays for Manchester City. That's for your brother and for myself.
Yeah,
So
they had a good little Manchester conversation.
yeah, I didn't know which comedian's name to use just then. But like, and I remember someone,
Mhm.
my friend Marty DeRosa said the best, and he's from is he from Cherville, Indiana,
Oh, okay.
nearby. Uh, he said to me, it's weird because it's like you're running to your job. Like nobody else in the world runs to their job. It's like
Yeah.
walk, let the crowd cheer, let the music play. Now, granted, if you're in some dive bar with no crowd and no music, yeah, get your ass up there a little quicker because you don't want that
Yeah.
dead mic air. But other than that,
Yeah.
slow it down, enjoy
Mm.
yourself a little bit.
That's so good. Yeah. I think it's interesting that you said like the reason then he heard your set. So then that because I mean, as a young comic too, we're always kind of wanting like people to hear our set, like the headliner, whoever. And one thing I will say to you, which is I'm going to brag on you a little bit on when you came and did my show at Chicagoland. And that's not all headliners have to be this way, but one thing I liked about you is like you really talk to all the comics and you kind of make the green room kind of like a camaraderie. Like everybody was like talking to you and like you have good conversation and it just felt like the whole show gelled. I think it helps the spirit of the show. even though not all not all headliners do that because some people's personality doesn't lend to that.
If your personality doesn't lend to that, then I totally get that. There's a lot of,
Hmm.
I've got great comedian friends who have a lot of social anxiety in certain situations. And, that is what it is. Not everyone has to be that way. But
Yeah.
I do feel like you should at least um, try to be welcoming. You don't have to be some game show host back there in the green room being like, hey, what's up? Where are you from? What's going on?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's ways to be welcoming while still being in your own little comfort zone, I suppose. I don't know. I just want everyone to have fun, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you set it up great. You asked people what kind of beer they like, which most places don't. You were a fantastic producer and a fantastic host.
Oh,
You
thank
did
you.
a great job. And so you set the tone and it made it, cool and chill for everyone else to just like, yeah, let's relax. Let's have a good time tonight. I don't know. I just like hanging out with comedians. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, there are times where I'll say I don't. That's usually because I'm having a bad day or one person made me mad. But
Yeah.
I do love it. And the older I get, the more and more I want to be around comedians.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just a shared bond we all have. That's it's hard to describe to people who can do it. You
Hmm.
get it, but to some people who don't do it, it's hard to. I'm sure other professions are like that, and even professions, it's more passions,
Hmm.
because even when I meet a comedian who's like just starting out and might not even be funny yet, I still want to talk to them. I want to pick their
Yeah.
brain and see
That's cool.
see what's what.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it helps the spirit of the show. I don't know because I've been in other rooms where that's not happening, and it's just kind of like, "Meh, meh, meh." I mean, and the show could still be good, and you're there for yourself. You're going to perform, whatever. But it just helps. It just helps with the atmosphere. I think. You were talking about anger, and I know I've heard you in other podcasts talk about anger management, and you go to therapy to
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
my
it.
thing.
And that's so great because I feel like men don't like to talk about therapy or talk about their feelings or what's happening or whatever. So my question to you is like with the anger management, was this something like even as a little kid? Like were you because it doesn't seem like you're like the bully type. It's more
No,
like you're like something's going down. I have to stop it, right? Or
well, that's how I first started getting into fights, kind of. Well, I had bullies on my block who picked on me, and I remember they were probably about 4 or 5 years older than me. I was young when they were picking on me, and then one day they couldn't actually fight me anymore. They would just torment me. And
Mhm.
so they had this one kid fight me because he was a grade ahead of me, but we were close in age. And I beat the shit out of him. It's one of those turning point moments in someone's life where it was like it almost feels. I remember thinking like, did I ever write about this time in my life? I'm like, no, because it was too cheesy movie '90s '80s type of thing where it was I'm not gonna take this shit anymore. Like, and just something grew inside of me that day. And the kid who got picked on all of a sudden was fighting back. That's
Yeah.
so and then the kid who I fought and beat up that day I ended up becoming great friends with
Oh,
because he realized like I was just doing what these big kids told me to do.
yeah.
And he
Huh.
like his ass kicked again, so he remembered not to do that. For that. But we did become really good friends after that. And then I didn't take, so I just stopped taking shit. And
So
then
how old were you when that was like you're like, I'm
when
done.
that happened that day, I was probably like 8 years old,
Oh, oh.
and it was a
Okay.
good fight, like to the point where I remember they had to stop it because I was like grabbing his face to put into the
Oh my
cement, and like it was like Jesus Christ.
Oh,
But I
wow.
remember he went to kick me, and I caught his foot.
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, fuck. I can't believe I did that." So
yeah.
instinctive. And that I
Oh,
remember I got a lot of confidence after that.
okay.
Yeah, so and then just growing up through later years of grade school and stuff like that, my best friend would get made fun of sometimes, and he was a year ahead of me in school, but we grew up next door to each other,
Mhm.
and, he'd get bullied by those other kids I was talking about as well. And so then I remember just I punched one guy in the face and knocked him down. Oh. Because he sets himself on my friend that he shouldn't have, and, from that day forward, I kind of had the reputation. Well, it's nice, but once you get the reputation, you don't
Mhm.
have to fight anymore.
Yeah.
That's the nice part about it.
Yeah.
So, I remember people were like, "Man, you must be getting fights every week." I'm like, "No, I got into enough where I didn't have to fight." Because people were like,
Mhm.
and then they wouldn't fuck with my friend either.
Yeah.
Like, "Don't fuck with Mike. That's Joe Kilgallon will fuck you up." So that was nice. But as far as like a temper thing, I was a real sweet kid into those days,
Oh,
and I
wow.
see it in my son now. My
Oh,
son now
okay.
is very sweet, incredibly empathetic, very sensitive. And
Oh.
I had a lot of that. And I was actually talking about this with my therapist. And my therapist annoyed me actually because he was just like, you guys are different. He's a different kid than you were. And I'm like, no, you're not hearing me. I was him.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling right now because part of me is like, I got to toughen this kid up because I know how the world is.
Yeah.
There's another part of me that's like, I like that he's this sweet kid though. I don't want
Yeah.
to lose any of that.
Right.
Um,
Is he your oldest or your
my oldest,
youngest?
and he doesn't
Okay.
get picked on or bullied or anything like
Mhm.
that, but I could just see that like there's certain things that
Yeah.
he just gets very if he ever listens to this, I mean this in the best way, but he's just incredibly he's just very sweet. I tried to get him to lie to his mom the other day, not the other day, but a few weeks ago, because I was like, "Hey, I told your mom I wouldn't let you watch this or let you do this. So if she asks, don't say anything."
Yeah.
And then, like after like 30 seconds, he was like, "I don't feel right lying to mom," and I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
"Shit, dude."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I love that about you." But also, like, you're fucking up our afternoon now. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I didn't say it like that to him, but in my own way, I did.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I just you know,
Mm.
I think that's what I was trying to tell my therapist. But I'm like, no, I was this dude. And I
Mhm.
remember this story because it's both funny and sweet at the same time. I accidentally stepped on an ant when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. Because I
Okay.
remember I was taking a step and I saw, I'm like, oh, was that an ant? And I looked and I saw the ant on the ground and it was like kind of like, oh, I got it. It
Yeah.
wasn't dead yet though.
Okay.
And here's my little six, maybe five, might have been 5 or 6 years old. It's my little
Yeah.
5-year-old brain. I kissed the ant because in my brain, you need to kiss it to make it feel better. Because anytime I had an ouchie or a boo boo,
Yeah.
my mom or dad would kiss it to make it feel better. That's what you get. That's medicine to a little kid, right? So
Right.
I went to kiss this ant, and then when I picked my head up, it
Oh
wasn't there
god.
anymore, and it was because it was crawling up my tongue. I'm like, oh, and I had to like spit the ant out.
Yeah.
I wasn't that. It was playing dead. This thing. I just wanted to get it in my mouth.
Oh.
Pervert ant. But no, I like the Irish thing. We all have bad tempers. So
Yeah.
I come from a long line of men. But I always tell people, I'm like, like when I think about my father,
Mhm.
his default setting was pretty joyous and happy. He
Mhm.
was like a silly guy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But when he would get mad, you fucking knew it.
Yeah.
And I have one of my specials, I make the joke about how there's a difference between being angry and having a bad temper.
Mhm.
People confuse the two. Angry people are walking around like the world's out to get me and
Yeah.
it's this person's fault that my life sucks and that person's and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Where people with a bad temper, you might see them, they got a big smile on their face, and then some asshole shoulder bumps them at a bar, knocks their drink down, doesn't say they're sorry, and now it's a problem.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like I'll tell people, I'm like, I'm chilling, I'm having a good time, but if you step on my
Yeah.
foot and don't say you're sorry, my brain is like, I have to fucking educate you now. Hey, dickhead, we live in a society. Watch where you're fucking going. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Just say you're sorry. Instead, you fucking walk by with a shit eating grin on your face. Now I have
Right.
to embarrass you in front of the whole fucking bar. That's how that works. Um, but that kind of thinking is also going to get me killed one day. I know it will.
Well, it's weird. Maybe I'm warped, but I'm like, what's wrong with that? Like standing up for yourself, like, or standing up for others, even better. I mean, not that you want to pick fights, but like, if it's minimal, I get the whole like, if somebody just bumps into you, that might not be. But if somebody's messing with some girl or or you're messing with your friend, I don't know.
No,
I'm
most
like, how
people
is
have no
that?
problem with that.
Yeah.
And that side of my personality, most people don't have a problem with. It's the side of my personality where it's like, you didn't need to say that at that moment. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I'll say little things here or there where I do a podcast called Let's Get Done with a comedian friend of mine, Jonah Jerkins.
mm-hmm. I've seen some of them.
We're
Yeah, they're
only
funny.
about 29 episodes in, but a
Hmm.
lot of my friends who watch it and listen to it,
Yeah.
they like how mad I get at Jonah.
Hmm.
And they go, you could just see your face start to get mad when he'll ask you a dumb question. And it's a lot of stuff where I've talked to people, they go, most people let that slide. You bring it up.
Hmm.
I tell people I'm like Irish Larry David, but with a little bit of temper behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jewish people have more of that neurotic thing. I think
Yeah.
Irish people have more of the temper thing.
Yeah. I think it's in the
American Irish.
blood.
Well, Irish have it too. I've been trying to correct that lately though, because people from Ireland get mad at Irish Americans for saying we're Irish. I
Oh,
fucking hate that. Yeah. I
okay.
think all Europeans hate that when white people go, part this,
Yeah.
part that. But I tell them, I go, look, over here we do that because we love dividing ourselves, and the more we could separate ourselves from each other, the better. All that kind of shit.
Right. Yeah. You talked about your dad, and then he's passed away in 2022.
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
okay?
January 27th, 2022.
Okay, and it
A
was
little over
and
2 years ago.
yeah.
It was sudden. Yeah, it was out of nowhere.
Wow.
Just went to bed, didn't wake up. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mm.
I was going to ask about that if he had been
Yeah, he
sickly
was
or anything.
no, he wasn't. He was 67. He'd just gotten back
Wow.
from a golf trip that he went on for the last 10 straight years with his brothers.
Wow.
His youngest brother, my Uncle Paul, lives in Boca Raton, Florida. So usually January or February, my dad and his two of his other brothers, and sometimes my Uncle Tom, so three or four of them would go down there and just go golfing for a week.
Okay.
And he'd gotten back from that trip like late Monday night. That Tuesday afternoon after school, he came over to my house, to hang out with the kids. And then Thursday morning, I got the phone call. So I was,
Wow.
saw him a
Well,
day
the
and a half
shock.
before. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Very.
I don't know. I always think of like with anybody that posts about their parents, because like both of my parents are gone. So
Oh,
there's
sorry
just
about
always
that.
this like, oh, and especially comics, I see that they're like, my mom passed away from cancer. And my dad is like, oh man, like I just, it's something to not to compare deaths, but like that sounds weird, but with cancer too, you kinda have, like you've been warned, right? I remember my dad having cancer. I was a little older than when my mom had cancer, and so I appreciated, like, every time I put my hand on his shoulder, I'm like, "Susanna, this might be the last time." Like, you just have this thinking where you're, like, soaking it up kind of because you know it's gonna happen and you're grieving along the way. But I think it's very hard when it's just unexpected. It's a lot harder.
Well, I've had this conversation with people and I've had this thought before. And I think you're right. First of all, it's weird, like you said, it's weird
I
to compare
know,
deaths
yeah.
and it sucks regardless and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Uh, it didn't make me think differently because I remember going like, I don't even want to answer this question because it takes away from everyone's experience and why even do that because it sucks regardless, right?
Mhm.
But I thought about that. I know how I want to die now.
Okay.
I don't want to die suddenly.
Oh,
They've done
okay.
polls. They've
Oh,
polled
wow.
people.
Okay.
The number one way people do want to die
Okay.
is peacefully in their sleep, which is how
Yes.
my dad died. My
Yeah,
dad died peacefully in his
that's
sleep.
true.
I
Mhm.
take solace in that because
Yeah.
I know him. He would not have been he would not have been good, like, suffering for a long time. That would not
Oh,
have been him.
okay.
Like, he was a guy that stopped going to sporting events because he didn't want to deal with the crowd. He was not going to be one of those people
Oh,
that dealt with all the other shit well, right?
okay.
He was great at many a thing, but that was
Mhm.
not one of them. And, me and my siblings talked about this because we've all been so devastated. We were all so close to him.
Yeah.
And it's made me think, with my sons, I want them to not deal with what I dealt with. So I almost think
Mhm.
it's better. It sucks for you. So
Yeah.
that's what's fucked up about life. Let me put this with a better brush here, everyone.
Yeah.
Here's what sucks about life. Besides dying, the obvious thing, obviously.
Mhm.
Uh, the best way to die for you
Mhm.
is the worst way for those around you.
Mhm.
But the worst way to die for you is what's best for those around you. It's
Yeah.
kind of fucked, right?
Yeah,
Because
it
dying
is.
of cancer
Yeah.
over a long period of time, just struggling with the cancer eating away at you and being in tremendous
Yeah.
pain, that's awful,
Yeah.
right? And so everyone I know, yourself included now, everyone I've ever talked to who's had their parents die of a long battle for cancer,
Mhm.
I've been at those funerals and they're always like, I'm glad you're at peace
Yeah, there
now.
is a relief. I
There's a
hate to
relief.
say
They
it, but there
always
is
look
a
so
relief.
relieved. They always look so
Yeah.
relieved. And so yeah, I think about
Mm.
that. And
Mhm.
that's, and where the other way, the way
Mhm.
you want it to die, I just go to sleep and it's peaceful and it's great. I'm not in agony, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It hits everyone like a shot to the chest. Like,
Yeah.
I had tremendous chest pains for, and if I think too deeply about it, which I think about my dad every day and I want to,
Yeah.
but there are times where it hits where I'm like, God, it feels like I just got shot again.
Yeah.
It really feels like you got shot. So
Yeah.
it sucks either way.
It does, it does. I think, also, like, I don't know. I mean, I was way closer to my mom than my dad, but I was a little bit older with my dad, so then it's like, I don't know, I felt it took me a lot longer to get out of the funk with my dad. But I think
Gotcha.
too, we were the only 2 living here, so, it's a space, right? Like, you're by yourself, you're just like, "Okay, he's not here." And he was a very quiet guy, which is hilarious because like, he didn't I mean, if you did not speak to him all day long, he would not speak to you. He was that quiet
Oh,
of a
wow.
guy. Yeah, he just had nothing to say. Every once in a while, he'd say some divine, advice. You're like, "Whoa, that was deep." But for the most part, just a quiet guy. But even in his quietness, there's still a presence that's gone. But yeah, the sense of relief is definitely there. So now that you have kids, um, do you see your dad through them? Do you see attributes of your dad
Uh,
or how you parent? Or
I see it a lot of, like, there'll be times where I'm speaking and I go, "Holy shit, I sound just like my dad." But I'm cool with that. I really
Yeah.
am. I mentioned this in the eulogy. When I gave the eulogy, I talked about how in television and movies, there's always the character that's like, oh my God, I sound like my parents.
Yeah.
And I go, when I sound like my dad, I go, awesome, I sound like my dad. Like I'm happy to sound like him.
Yeah.
So, I feel very blessed in that regard. But with my kids, my youngest son's 4. So every now and then there's little things he does. But my older son, who's named after my dad,
Okay.
there'll be things he does where I'm like, holy shit. And then I'll like, I'll text like my family being like, Matthew just did this. And they're like, well, he's just like his namesake. Like, like one
Wow.
time we were at my wife's family's house for someone's birthday or whatever. And the TV's on. And my son's trying to hear what's on the TV and everyone's talking. And then he goes, can everyone be quiet? I'm trying to listen to the TV. If you want to talk, go in the other room. Like that was my dad. My dad, if he was trying to hear something and everyone was talking too much, he would tell us, go in the
Mhm.
other room. I'm trying to listen to this. Be quiet. Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah, hearing my
that's
youngest
cool.
son, or not my youngest, my oldest son say that really makes me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It cracks me up when he does that.
It's so good that you are a father and you can see that with boys, with that generational, you know, it's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. And my son's the third Matthew Kilgallon. He's
Oh,
not Matthew
okay.
Kilgallon the third, but my great grandfather was Matthew Kilgallon
Okay.
and my dad was, and now my son is.
Huh, that's
My dad was
cool.
Matthew John, 'cause he was named after both. He was the oldest son, so he's named after
Okay.
both his grandfathers. He had a grandfather named Matthew and one named John. And then
Hmm.
my I'm Joseph Matthew. I have my
Okay.
dad's middle name.
Okay.
So I named my son Matthew Joseph. So it's just a reverse of
Oh,
my
that's
name, but also a
cool.
tribute to my dad. So
That's really cool. Yeah.
my youngest son got my wife's dad's middle name,
Okay.
or name as his middle name. So he's Dylan Jeffrey, and Jeffrey's my father-in-law's name. And
Okay.
Dylan was just a name we thought was cool, so we picked it.
Yeah, Dylan's a nice name.
Yeah.
That's
By the
cool.
way, he's a Dylan. Certain names do matter. You know what I mean? There are
They
times
do
where
matter. I
I
agree.
I remember envisioning what kind of personality does a kid named Dylan have? Like Dylan
Mhm.
Kilgallon, what is that kid going to be like? And he is exactly like what I thought he'd be like. He's a lot
Wow.
like me,
Okay.
personality wise. He looks a little bit more like his mother, where it's like the reverse. My oldest son looks more like me, but has more of his mother's temperament and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. But yeah, he's a riot.
Oh.
He knows he's like a 4-year-old that flirts with waitresses. Like that's his move. Like that's what he is, and that's what a Dylan would do.
Yeah, it's exactly what a Dylan would do. Yeah. Very cool. And so how many siblings do you have?
I have an older sister, a younger sister, and younger brother. So
Okay.
3 total.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. And so then do they have a lot of kids too? Or
No.
something?
But one's on the way. I have so they're 2 teachers and one's in medical school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Can we talk CYSK?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I had a question about this because okay, so you've had CYSK Chicago for how long? It's been
Shit. I mean, it originally started in 2000, like 9, I want to say, at one bar, and then it was doing well, but the bar was run by an idiot, so I had to find a new home.
okay.
And then I that's when I came in. I wasn't part of the original. 'Cause every now and then
Okay.
I get introduced as a founder. I'm like, well, not technically, but I'm
I
one
would
of the
always thought you
founders
were.
of it
Yeah.
at its current home, Timothy O'Toole's.
Okay.
I had
Okay.
done a couple shows with a few friends at Timothy O'Toole's like a year before,
Okay.
and so I knew the management. And so when
Mm,
Danny Kalis approached me saying, "Hey, I want you to come on board. We're going to relaunch Community You Should Know. We're trying to find a new home for it."
okay.
And then we were like, "Well, where?" And he goes, "I'm thinking downtown." And I'm like, "Yeah, downtown would be cool." And so I then suggested Timothy O'Toole's, and so we've been at
Okay.
Timothy O'Toole's since January of 2010. So we're
Okay.
talking 14 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really cool bar.
It is.
There,
I
it's
mean,
very
it
nice.
works great. It's surrounded by some hotels and stuff, so you get some tourists there. But then you also, so Danny Kalis he's a great guy, weird as fuck in a lot of ways, but a genius when it comes to a lot of producing philosophies. His thought process was, we'll do a show downtown on a Wednesday night because if we could sell that out, it's going to be a cool crowd. Like if you could sell out a
Mm,
Wednesday night, it's going to be cool. People
yeah.
who go to comedy shows on Wednesday are probably going to be cool.
Yeah,
Any asshole goes out on a Friday or Saturday.
that's
Poor people
true.
go out on a Wednesday. And I'm like, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah,
Poor people with,
people
spare time, don't mind being hungover on Thursdays, which are cool people actually, now that I
Yeah, it's
say that out
true.
loud.
Yeah, if you're getting hungover in a midweek, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
And then if you're into comedy that much that you would go during the week, you know what I mean? That's another good sign, so.
absolutely.
So then, because I've heard that there's like a CYSK in New York,
There's
right?
one in New York and then the one in LA is monthly.
Okay, so then did you guys have
I
a
helped
part in
start.
that?
Yes, they're all
Oh,
affiliated. So
okay.
the one in New York is run by a comedian named Mike Leibovitz, and he's got along with David Drake and Mandy Ryan, I believe, is helping out now too. So it's all Chicago based. Mike Leibovitz, Lebo, affectionately we call, amazing comedian, great human being as well. He um he helped produce my last special. He started the New York one, but he was also one of the guys when Danny brought me on. He brought Mike Leibovitz on too.
Okay.
We were like the two new additions. So when Lebo moved to New York,
Okay.
he was like, "Hey, I want to start the New York CYSK," and we're
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
okay.
cool, of course." And then when
Cool.
I moved to LA, I was like, "I want to start an LA one." So we had
Oh,
like an
okay.
LA branch and a Chicago branch and a New York branch, but they were all like
That is really
they all
cool.
came out of the mothership of the Chicago branch. Uh,
Okay.
the LA one has not been as successful as the other ones in terms of ticket sales. Now it's done well. There's been sellouts. There's been a lot of sellouts. There's been a
Okay.
run where it's like, damn, we're sold out like 500. That's great. Then we'll have two that are like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? Because LA is just a way, way more difficult terrain to operate as opposed to New York and Chicago. Like all the things we
Mhm.
used as far as getting the word out in Chicago worked in New York because they're similar enough cities. Obviously, New York's much bigger,
Yeah, I would say
but
so.
people take the train to work. They do this, so there was like certain
Yeah.
publications where it's like, oh, if we get featured on this thing, people are going to
Mhm.
read that on the train to work, and that'll sell us out, and they would. So,
Oh, okay.
but LA is just a different animal. Where everyone drives, everyone does this. There's
Yeah.
just less. I don't know. Anyway, so where LA has been successful though is we have pictures of Adam Sandler, Bill Burr,
Oh,
Sarah Silverman, Pete Davidson. I could keep adding the names, all on the LA CYSK stage. So they're all
oh
standing
my
there with our
God.
logo behind them. And
Wow.
I remember when Adam Sandler popped on, he just did a guest spot because he was like working out a bunch of new stuff. So he
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, can I pop on?" I wasn't there, but the guys were like, "Fuck yeah, you can get up there to your Adam Sandler. What do you want our keys? Like, what do you want? You know?"
Right, right.
And I remember getting that photo from them and then sending it to, the Chicago comics and stuff like that, and being like, "See, this is why you have an LA show. Even if you have the bad
Mm.
ones, all the bad ones make up for this picture alone. The picture of
Yeah.
Adam Sandler with our logo right behind him because we have a big sign right
Yeah, that's
behind him.
super
Same with Bill Burr
cool.
and everyone else I listed.
Wow. And so then I'm sure they'll run independently, right? Like the guy from New York meets with comedians in New York, right? He's not like running things by you guys, or like you
No,
guys are
yeah,
trusting it that
there
it's
was some
gonna do
stuff we
it.
had to run by in the beginning,
Mhm.
but then once the shows take off on their own, they're off on their own.
Okay.
I got a small loan. Did I pay this back? Probably not. It's been long enough. Well, fucking now. You're not getting your money. To start the LA one. Because the
Okay.
bar we first chose didn't have like a sound system already.
Oh,
So we had to buy
interesting.
like a PA
Okay.
system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we moved to a place that had a PA system. And then I think I sold the PA system to give them the money back, I imagine. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe pocketed that. I don't know.
It's a lot with comedy, right? Like you have to
It's
solve your own
expensive. So
issues,
yeah. Uh,
your own problems when there are arising, yeah.
they're all affiliated with each other. So every now and then, the New York branch will say like, it's weird to call it a branch, but like the New York comics
Mhm.
will say, "Hey, so and so keeps emailing us. Are they any good?" And then we'll be like, "Yeah,
Okay.
they've done ours." Like the typical rule is if you've done CYSK Chicago,
Okay.
you could do the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's my next question. I was gonna ask
and
that.
vice
Like, how does
versa.
that work?
That's how it works.
Wow,
So
that is very cool to have like, yeah, the big cities have the same. That's really awesome.
yeah, the three big ones.
I was wondering if it was connected. I was like, it has to be because like the sign looks the same, everything,
I do want to
Very
say though,
cool.
I don't produce the show anymore though. I just go up
Yeah, I
as
was
much.
surprised to hear that when
So
you said that at
yeah.
my show. I was like, wait, why you don't produce it? Like,
No, myself and Marty DeRosa, we haven't moved a chair, done any actual producing in the last 4 years, but
okay,
we are like cast members. That's how we're
okay,
viewed upon because we still go up as much as anyone else. We're
okay,
legacies. So Danny, the thing is, I still wanted to produce because I felt like
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I should still produce.
yeah,
And then my second son was born in 2019. And
yeah.
so Danny was like, you don't have time to fucking produce,
I
dude.
know
What are
it's
you
a
doing? You
lot.
can't do
Yeah,
this. Like, because I was texting being like, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I had a lot
yeah.
going on. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do more big picture stuff. So I was like, let me help out with big picture stuff. But at the time we didn't have any big picture stuff.
Okay. What's
Like
the big picture stuff?
I wanted us to do what Don't Tell Comedy is doing right now.
Oh,
They kind of
okay.
beat us to it. I mean, we're trying to right
Mm,
now. We're filming all of our shows now, but I
okay.
was begging to film all the shows back in 2019.
Okay.
But we were just a little bit whatever. We got our act together. We were a little late to the game on some of this stuff, but we're doing well now. We got this
Mhm.
great guy, Rodesco Hopkins, who films us every week. He's a funny comedian too. And so we're putting out a lot of clips, just getting the
Okay.
content going, all that kind of stuff. I thought I could start to do that. And even But Danny was right. I tried to do it this past year, but I just with getting my kids to school and all that, I had too much going on during the day. So Redeska was able to take it over mostly for me, which is great.
Okay.
But as far as like running the show goes, I'm only there when I'm on the show too. That's what cracks me up. Every now and then
Right.
someone will send me a message being like, or I'll do a random Tuesday show. Like
Yeah.
I'll be at Laugh Factory on a Tuesday and someone will say, "I'll see you tomorrow." And I'm like, what's tomorrow? And they're
Oh
like,
my God.
"Oh, I'm doing CYSK." And I'm like, "Well, have a good set. I won't be there." And then they're like, "Well, you don't go when you're not on the show?" I'm like, "No."
Okay. So it's like
I
if you're
don't
on
have
the
time.
flyer, then you're there.
I don't have fucking time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, if you're on the flyer, you're there. Do you host it?
no, I don't. I've
Oh,
hosted
okay.
once in the last 2 years. And it
Oh,
wasn't good.
okay.
I used to be a good host. I can't host well anymore. I'm not a good host anymore. You
Why?
can
You
lose a
just
muscle. I just stopped hosting for so long, and then when I had to come back to it,
yeah.
I'll host at Laugh Factory every now and then,
Yeah.
and I'm fine there.
Yeah.
They keep asking me to do it here or there,
Okay.
not that often, but often enough. I
Yeah.
think I'm doing okay. But I've only hosted CYSK once in the last 2 years, I want to say, and it wasn't good.
Mm,
I didn't think it was good. Everyone else like it was fine. I'm like, no, it was bad. So I usually go in the middle or at the end.
okay.
And yeah, I mean, I'll go sometimes if I'm not on the show,
Yeah.
but like it's not like I'm too good to go to the show. It's I
Right.
need to go to
You
bed.
are
I'm
busy.
fucking tired.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
don't have a show, I try to be in bed by 10 p.m.
Okay.
I should be getting to bed earlier. I
Yeah.
wake up every day at 6:15 is when my alarm goes off,
Oh, okay.
Monday through Friday, and I have to
Okay.
get two small children dressed, fed,
Oh,
brush their teeth,
oh, you do all of
backpacks
that.
packed, and
Okay.
out of the damn house.
Oh,
My wife
okay.
makes the lunches the night before, so I'm just putting the lunches in the
Oh,
bag.
okay. That's
But you'd
good.
be surprised how many times I've
Because
forgotten that.
she's a nurse, right? So she
Yes.
gets up
So
earlier
she's
then, or
gone
what?
in
By that time.
earlier than
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha.
So, and I'm not complaining, but
Right.
when I do sets and when I'm out,
Yeah.
last night I didn't get home till midnight.
Yeah.
So if I fall asleep instantly, yeah, I might get 6 hours. Is that even 6 hours? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Fairly.
that's if I fall asleep that
Right. You have
second,
to go to,
which is
yeah, right,
very
right.
hard to do.
Very.
So, and I'm not even saying this for sympathy. This is,
Yeah.
I've got a great life and this is the life I've chosen. So it is what it is. I mean, I guess I could pick up and ditch them at any point. Many of dad have done that.
Maybe they can get themselves ready. I don't know for school.
Yeah. I mean,
Do they really need to breakfast then?
yeah, every now and then you know,
Does it make you grumpier, like, when you're, like, less sleep? I know for me, like, I don't know, I get quieter or I'm not, like, as
I get,
on,
I had to learn this
obviously.
way though. My kids don't react well to me being grumpy. So for me to get them moving, I have to kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
So I have to, be like, let's go. Yeah. I have to kind of try to be like, yeah, that kind of shit. I mean, they're moving now and stuff, but every now and then my
Yeah.
4-year-old son in particular I'll be like, hey, you gotta go brush your teeth. And then I'm like, why isn't he done brushing his teeth? And I open the door and he's fucking with the toothpaste. And I'm like,
Oh
dude.
my god, yeah, just
And we
playing
have to
around.
park by his school and the parking sucks. And then when I park a
Mhm.
block away, he's like, what'd you park so far? I'm like, why did you take a year and a half to brush your teeth? Why does it take you so you have 12 teeth. It shouldn't take you this long to brush them. Let's go. So, but I know because I used to be the get in the fucking car dad.
Yeah.
And that just didn't play well for anybody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and they start an hour apart. So
Oh,
my 4-year-old son starts at 7:30. My 6-year-old son starts at 8:30. So we
that's
drop off the one at
interesting.
7:30. We come home
Okay.
for like 25 minutes with nothing else to do. And then
Oh,
we
that
go
is
back out and drop
weird.
off the other one.
Yeah.
And as soon as the other one's in that door and that door
Yeah.
shuts, it's such a like a
Yeah.
all right.
Done.
And it's nice
Done.
now because they're in full day school.
Oh,
Last year,
okay.
my preschool son was in like 7:30 to 10. And the other one
Oh,
started at 8:30. So I had like an hour to myself every day.
yeah.
That's an hour.
Yeah.
And
What's
so
the point
I
too?
was way more angry and stressed out because, you're working hard on stuff and
Yeah.
it's like, shit, all of a sudden it's October and I've got like 2 shows. Why wasn't I emailing people the last
Oh.
months? You get a little backed up and then you start to hate yourself for it and you get angry and yeah.
And the list continues, like, it never ends.
Oh,
Like, I
shit
feel
piles
like
up.
that with producing, it's like it just never ends. There's always something else. There's always something else you gotta do.
I know. Yeah, it's a hard business. It's great. I love it, but it's hard. Like I had a show get
Yeah.
canceled today.
Oh,
It wasn't for today. It was
okay.
for because you're like, motherfucker, you're the
I know,
podcaster.
way.
No, I got the notification that it was canceled. Like the booker emailed me today, being like, "Hey, dude, sorry, we got to cancel on March 8th." And I was like, "Oh shit, what
Wow.
happened?" Then you'd have it booked. He's like, "No, ticket sales are a little low." And I'm like, "It's fucking March 8th. Like we got some time."
That's true.
And
Hopefully
from a
the
performer's point of view, I'm like, at this
yeah.
point, they're open anyway because it's a brewery. Why not keep
Mhm.
waiting? Because it's too late for me to get another show anyway.
I know,
So
it's
my
not
Friday's
fair to
fucked.
you.
And that was a good paying gig.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn it. You know what I mean? Like I'm now out a nice chunk of money.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it wasn't my only show that week. But even if it was my only show that week, I'm like, this is fucking good
Right.
money. You know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah.
why can't we wait? Like, and the thing is, there was some ticket sales. I think he said there's like 20 tickets sold and the room fits 150. And I'm like, again, though, it's fucking
It's fine at
the
that
first week of
point.
March. I bet we would have rolled.
Yeah, everybody waits last minute.
And he even said, he goes, dude, I'm sorry. I think they panicked, dude, but I'll let you know if we get another date.
I
We
mean,
might
do
try
they
again
do a lot
later.
of shows? Do they,
I
or
don't
is
think
this
they do
something
a lot.
new?
I think
Yeah.
they do like one a quarter. And
Oh,
for whatever
okay.
reason, the last quarter, which is probably like near the holidays, maybe the
Yeah.
first week of December or something, it sold well, you know.
Okay.
But this one, but again,
Mm.
it's just too early to pull the plug.
Yeah, I think
That's
it is
why I'm
too
more
early,
mad.
right? Because today's the 13th, right?
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
a month away.
Yeah.
March 8th to
It's true.
February 13th.
It's almost
It's a
a month.
fucking month.
Yeah, why aren't we putting ads
I
on
can understand it.
Facebook? Why aren't we?
I can understand if it was March 1st and you wanted to cancel.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think from their
Or a
point of
week
view,
before or something.
a
I
week
don't
before.
know.
I can't think of one good reason from their point of view, other than that they decided last minute we just don't want comedy.
Mm,
Because if they're thinking, well, we don't want to sell half and that still not be really enough to cover our expenses
mhm.
and then have to give, but people get refunds. They understand that. I would even
Yeah.
tell them, blame me. Say I got a fucking acting gig and I have to reschedule.
Mhm.
And then they get their money back. They find something else to do on their Friday night. It's not that big a
And then
deal.
why not reschedule to a future date? That's another thing. Like, why not do it, in April? I mean, nobody thinks like us.
It's
Do
karma
it in
though,
April
or it's
so
not.
that you can promote you have a little bit longer to promote maybe. I don't know.
I can't even complain though, because I had to cancel on someone recently. I gave them a few weeks notice though.
Mhm.
I did have to cancel on someone. So, and,
Yeah.
I do. It's show business. That's what it happens.
Yeah.
It sucks when it does. It makes us go, why the fuck,
Do
but
you ever have to cancel because do you ever cancel when a better gig comes?
yeah,
Okay.
this one I had
That's
to.
what happens? Yeah. Okay.
And I felt terrible doing it. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's the difference of it.
Yeah.
It's the one gig I was supposed to do was $400, which
Okay.
was a good gig. I was happy with that.
Yeah.
And then I got offered, and it was a drive though. It was about a 4 hour drive.
Okay.
Um, they put me up in a hotel too and all that, but I was still happy to get the gig, and it
Uh-huh.
sounded great. And then I got offered one for $1,500.
Mm.
That's a 20-minute drive.
Oh, yeah.
1,500 versus 400. And when I explained it, they were like, "Well, duh, you got it."
Yeah,
It's just
for sure. Yeah. I don't like to say this out loud because I don't want people to start canceling my show, but I'm very understanding of that. Like I had one comic, he's like, "I'm gonna open up for this big guy." I'm like, "Yeah, do it." I mean, that's gonna be more exposure for you.
sure. I
I
mean,
mean, I don't want you to cancel my show and it puts me in a bind, but I get it. I get that.
one time I got offered double money, but it was like the day before, and I was like, I don't feel right doing this, so I
Oh,
won't cancel if it's like the day before,
yeah. Okay.
because I was like,
Yeah.
that's bad. But this was
Yeah.
a couple weeks out, so
Yeah.
it's like you have time to replace me.
Yeah, you do.
And people are going because it's your comedy night. I don't think they're going specifically for me.
Yeah.
This was a show in downstate Illinois. I don't
Yeah.
know anyone down there. I don't know if my YouTube clips are killing it down there or not, but
Right.
it's one of those things. Yeah, you hate to do that, but if you handle
Yeah.
yourself professionally, so it's another little piece of comedy advice. You handle
Mhm.
yourself professionally, and you don't even have to say that. I think I just said, "Hey, I'm really sorry I have to cancel. I feel terrible." And
Yeah.
then I go,
Oh,
I
okay.
can help you find a replacement, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Right. You don't have to be
Like
super specific.
the
And that they
reason.
followed up.
Yeah.
Well, no, with this gig, because there was like did you get something else? And then I was like, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
make you feel bad, but come on.
It's good. That's better than lying and making
Yeah.
up stories and being
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Oh,
My uncle died,
whatever."
something horrible like that. Yeah. Don't be that person. You know what I mean?
I forgot I have to, something happened. I don't know. These weird stories that you hear sometimes. It's like, okay, can I believe that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So your special is well, it was Good Grief, right? And
Yeah.
did you change
So
it on that first platform
I didn't
too?
change on the first platform, but I probably
Okay.
should, just so I could I don't want to say but like
Why do you
relaunch.
keep it Good Grief?
Can I tell you
I
why?
know the Netflix thing, but like, so?
That
I don't know.
that was kind of a bullshit excuse, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
oh, okay. I'm
Here's
gonna
the
get
main
the real
reason why.
reason. Okay.
I got like I thought to myself, all right, when I release this on YouTube, how am I going to go about doing this? And I still wanted people to go to Punchup
Yeah.
because Punchup has my tour dates on there, and if people sign up, they can subscribe to me
Yeah,
on
it's a
Punchup,
really cool
and I know where
website. Yeah.
they live. That sounds creepy. And I don't know their
Oh,
address, but I know where in the country they're watching from.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
here's
that's
an
kinda
example. Here's an
cool.
example. I had a friend in Minnesota, and he was like, "Dude, love the special,"
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, "You didn't watch it." I didn't say that to him,
Oh,
but in my
because you
head,
could
you
see
could see where in the
it.
country people watched it. Like nobody in Montana's watched it, which is fine. But it's killing it in some states where I'm like, who the fuck in
I
Mississippi do I know? Or
know.
like, I got some fans of Mississippi. This is cool. Because like what it does is it shows you this map. Because it's like the great thing about Punch Up is it's like it takes away the middleman. Where
Uh-huh.
if I release a special on Amazon Prime, I don't know who watched it from where. But
Yeah.
on Punch Up, and if I get people to go to Punch Up, I could get their email because I get to watch for free. They just type in their email, and there's no
Okay.
spamming. It just tells you when I'm near your town,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then I have my tour dates on there. So then it also tells me who clicked on those ticket links to go to the
Oh,
show,
wow.
which is also a great thing to have because
It
I
gives you their email address, or what does
no,
it do?
I
It
already get
tells
their
you
email addresses. I only get their email
anyway.
address.
Okay.
Well, I only get if they watch the video because they have
Okay.
to type in for that. But say you went to punchup.live
Mhm.
slash Joe hyphen Kilgallon, which I
Mhm.
changed, by the way. JoeKilgallon.com. If you go to JoeKilgallon.com, it takes you right to my punch up page. I got
Oh.
rid of my actual website and just made it
Oh,
direct to that
good. That was
because I didn't,
smart.
it's, it was superfluous at that point. I didn't need the,
Yeah.
it's redundant. And so, if someone like, if I have a gig, next week at the Beverly Arts Center in Southside Chicago. Someone clicks on the link from my side of it, I know
Uh-huh.
that. So what's nice about that is I
Mm.
could say to clubs in the future, hey, I know for a fact that 200 of the people who bought tickets bought it through my site.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So
Okay.
because I get the information, it'll tell me like who clicked on
Mm.
it. I get
Okay.
that. And again, it tells me where in the world they watch it, not just in America, in the world. It shows,
Okay.
yeah, because that's the whole point of it. It's like you get the data, which is
Interesting.
a huge tool for comedians.
Well, I'm glad I didn't lie because you could see Indiana
No, I saw you
that
watch
I
it.
watched.
No, I saw Indiana. But
Oh,
so anyway,
that's
here's why I
cool.
changed it to Good Grief. So in my
Okay,
head, I'm
yeah.
like, all right, I got to put this on YouTube. The whole plan was to put it on Punch Up for the first like 2 months, then
Yeah.
launch on YouTube. That was the plan from Jump Street.
Okay.
So then I started doing research on what videos are doing well on YouTube and all that stuff. And I've
Mhm.
noticed there are two big like comedy entities right now that are dominating this YouTube space. One's dry bar comedy, but they're like clean comedy. So
Mhm.
everything's clean. I
Mhm.
noticed their running times were all about 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, all right. Then Don't Tell. Don't Tell's they're all about 10 to 12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, all right, maybe this hour is too long. And mine was about 53 minutes, 52 minutes.
Okay.
And there are some people who have the full hour up there, but they're already established names.
Okay.
So, like, fucking Dave Chappelle could drop a 3 hour thing and everyone's
Yeah,
going to watch
everybody's
the
gonna
damn
watch
thing.
it, yeah.
Same with all these other big names nowadays, right?
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I got to get this where people are going to watch it. I'm unknown still. So
Okay.
you're asking strangers to
Uh-huh.
click on you. If you're putting something that's super long, they're going to be like, am I going to invest all my, 55 minutes, almost an hour to
Mhm.
someone I've never heard of?
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And Good Grief, I love it as a title.
I loved it too. It was good.
It fits the thing.
Yeah.
You already knew me. I assume liked me
Yeah.
enough. That's why you watched it.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, does this look good in a thumbnail? And I was talking about this with a friend of mine just recently because a
Okay.
buddy of mine released a special a few years ago and he thinks he got lost in the COVID shuffle. So I told him, I'm like, dude, you only have like
Mm.
800 views. Take it down and relaunch it again. Relaunch it with the knowledge you have
Oh.
now. Put better
Yeah.
keywords in there. But,
Okay.
it's not like anyone's going to give a shit. No one saw the fucking thing. Like
Right.
literally 800 views is nothing when you compare to
Right.
YouTube.
Thousands
You
and
know what I mean?
thousands. Yeah.
Fucking,
Millions.
it's
Yeah.
billions, even millions. So I thought I'm going to take some advice from what uh, Dry Bar did. I'm gonna make it smaller. I cut it down to 32 minutes, but I still had the part about my dad in there, right?
Yeah.
Then I looked at all the thumbnails that Don't Tell was doing,
Okay.
and a lot of theirs was like 2 word things that kind of were
Oh.
big letters. It's you holding a microphone and a couple big letters there. So I was like, well, what's this thing about now? It's about life. It's about death. All right, life
Mhm.
and death.
Okay.
Life and death. Me holding a microphone. Those are bold enough words where people are gonna be like, maybe I'll give this a click, right?
Okay.
And what I was telling
I
my
can see
friend
that.
is for the thumbnail, my friend's like, why don't you just do the album cover art? I go, dude, album cover art. Albums, that's where you go artistic.
Mhm.
Thumbnails, clicks. And when you make a YouTube
Mhm.
thumbnail, all your concern is will people click on this? Because what do you click on, right? You don't go artsy. You go artsy for the album cover. For the thumbnail,
Mhm.
fuck art. It's about clicks.
Yeah.
And it seems like, ugh, but that's just how it goes. Because we're the
Yeah.
same way. I know when I'm scrolling through YouTube randomly, if the thumbnail looks badass,
Yeah.
I go, well, fuck it, I'm gonna give that a click.
Yeah.
It's not clickbait if what it's my special is legitly about life and death. So
Yeah.
if someone
It
clicks on it, they're
is.
not going to be like, that was clickbait. No, if I had a woman with huge breasts in the thumbnail, then that would be clickbait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
clickbait.
Yeah.
So
It is about life and death.
it's just making it clear and clean. People
Okay.
don't have
Yeah.
as much Well, they probably have as much time, but they don't have the attention spans. They don't have the
Mhm.
focus. So you're competing. There's just so much content out there right now. So many choices, so many avenues.
Yeah, for
If you're going to
sure.
compete in this world with people with high production values and already have names, you better make it look fucking easy and clean to click on. Make it simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just and make it pop. So that's why I started
Yeah.
changing. That's why I changed the name. I wanted something that popped more.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Life and Death does pop more than Good Grief.
Yeah. Because
I think
good grief is almost, you almost know that's has more meaning than just the words good at grief.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and like
That's cool.
I'm gonna cut up a clip because now I have to cut up clips from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I'm trying to do the longer clips because YouTube wants the clips to be just long enough where they could put advertisement.
Okay.
Like a 3 minute clip is nothing nowadays.
Yeah.
Because at that point you might as well cut it down to a minute and have it be a YouTube short.
Yeah.
YouTube wants shorts because they're trying to compete with Reels and TikTok, right?
Mhm.
They want longer video because that's where they can sell advertising dollars on.
Okay.
So those middle ground, those 3 to 5 minute things that used to be bread and butter back in the day,
Mhm.
nothing now.
Not good.
You might as well just be in the shorts lane, or
Okay.
you could go, but I'm not saying put an hour out there though,
Right. So
because
what do
that's
you
too long.
how many minutes is the middle ground?
I think what Don't Tell Comedy is doing is they're posting comedians doing 10-minute sets.
Okay.
So your typical 10-minute set that you'd give to a comic going third at
Yeah.
Hobart. Is it Hobart? Hobart.
It's Hobart, like Bert
Hobart.
and Ernie.
Hobart.
It's
Yeah.
weird, even
Hobart
though it
Art
doesn't look
Theater.
like that.
Sure. Like what'd you do
Yeah.
at Patty Vasquez's show? 8 to 10 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think 8 to 10, yeah.
they're putting up like 8 to 12 minutes, I've noticed.
Okay.
And they're
Makes
putting a
sense.
catchy little thumbnail, right? So
Mhm.
I'm fucking around with the thumbnail right now.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm dragging ass right now. Where from one of the jokes,
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna put it nut shots and doctors.
Oh, that's funny.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, would people click on that? So I'm trying to make it
Yeah,
like a
you're cool.
two-word thing because that's what I took from Don't Tell. And it's not like I'm stealing, it's called inspiration.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
I'm like, look at what the people who are successful are doing.
Yeah.
Take some inspiration from that, put your own little spin on it.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for
Because again, we're
sure.
trying to create jokes. We're not trying to be fucking, internet's. We need to be. So in
Mhm.
that world, go ahead and fucking take and steal and rip off other
Oh,
people.
yeah, that type of thing, I don't think it's wrong. I mean,
Not
you're
at
not
all.
stealing jokes, you're just stealing creativity,
Yeah,
like,
I'm stealing ideas.
yeah, ideas.
Yeah, so I made
And
it
we
30 minutes, and I took that from Dry Bar, about 30
okay.
minutes, because they think an hour is probably too long nowadays. So I made it 30
Mhm.
minutes,
It's
and
good.
then I took the thumbnail idea from Don't Tell. So I took a couple ideas from some stuff like from those two
Yeah.
big things. Then
Yeah.
and here's the thing, I think it's kind of changed the way I'm going to do things now because I think with my next hour, I'm not even going to film it as an hour. I'll just film 10-minute chunks along the way and release those more frequently. I don't even
Mhm.
see myself doing another special unless some platform I want to get big enough on these other platforms so that like a
Yeah.
big enough platform will say, we'll give you a fuckload of money up front,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, where Netflix is calling or something or touring and, like, it's inevitable, like, people want that makes sense. If
Yeah.
you are pouring in a lot of money, you know, I don't know what the answer is,
Well, I
but
just
yeah,
think
10 minutes
I
is
think
good.
it'd be more beneficial to me to release 5 10-minute mini specials
Mhm.
than one 50-minute special.
Mhm.
That'd be way more beneficial because once a week or once a month or whatever, I'll drop a 10-minute thing.
Oh, that's good,
And
yeah.
people are more likely to scroll around being like,
Mhm.
minutes, Joe Kilgallon, he sounds familiar. Oh, I saw that guy's other shit.
Mhm.
What's the thumbnail? It's called,
Yeah.
gambling and hookers. Cool. I'll click on that. That sounds like a fun thing to fucking hear some guy joke about. I don't know why I took two subjects I've never made a joke about in my life, but whatever. But like that's the
Yeah.
type of thinking we need to be thinking about now.
Yeah. I think shorts too. I mean,
Yeah, shorts are big
I
too.
have just sat there and just done shorts and shorts and short. It's really weird because you go through the psychological, like there's a comedian and then there's like a political statement. And there's like, but it's entertaining. You just scroll and scroll. I mean, and that's what I think Matt Rife did, right?
No,
With all
Matt
these
Rife
little shorts.
and you know what Matt Rife
Crazy.
did? His was more TikTok, I realized, but obviously it goes to he used it on every place. It's not like you can't just be on one platform. You got to be on all of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I've noticed there are different demographics per YouTube, like my YouTube special or my YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 73% men who watch my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
TikTok, it's almost 60% women. And
Interesting.
Matt Rife blew up with women on TikTok. I
Yeah.
think women will watch stand up comedy on TikTok, but women aren't seeking stand up comedy on YouTube. Some of them are. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm not.
I think you're right because I
I'm
feel
saying
like
majority here.
there's more females that are watching TikTok.
Yeah,
'Cause there's moms or the kids
yeah,
and the
that's what I mean. I mean,
video
obviously, there
like,
are
their
female
silly
comedy
videos
fans,
and
yeah,
yeah.
who will go to YouTube for their comedy as well.
Yeah.
But I think about YouTube's also a nastier place too. It is.
Yeah.
You'll get meaner. I think YouTube's getting meaner. I think YouTube was mean for a while. Then it wasn't mean because I released a lot of shit starting in 2019 and then 2020. And then the pandemic fucked up all my momentum because I had nothing
Yeah.
else to put up because there was nothing to film. But
Right.
I had so many, it was mostly nice. I remember people being
Mm.
like, oh, dude, how bad are the comments? I'm like, dude, no, I'm like, right, but they're great. But then over the last 5 months of posting like podcast clips and stand up shorts and stuff,
Yeah.
they've gotten some nastier ones. Yeah, because it's everything is, every
Mhm.
little thing. I remember one guy was like, some guy, I've only had a handful of bad ones on this thing. Mostly it's been 80% positive, maybe 90%.
Mm.
But some of the bad ones, I'm just like, what a fucking dickhead. What a
Oh, the
loser.
comments?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
like,
I hate
this
people in
thing
their
sucked, dude.
comments.
Your nods to wokeism pissed me off. I'm like, nods to wokeism? Fuck, I have no political jokes. Like, what's the nod to wokeism?
Yeah, what is
Oh, I
that?
have one joke where I tell someone I respect your pronouns, but not now,
Oh,
which is based off you know the joke. This was a true story. I was on a train and this guy was harassing a gay man on the train,
okay.
and I told him, I go, hey, I said, leave him the fuck alone.
Mhm.
And the guy's like, I actually go by they them, and I'm like,
Oh.
dude, I respect your pronouns, but I was in the middle of a fucking, I was trying to get this guy to back off.
Me
You
out.
you could have told me later. You could have said after we got him kicked off the train. That was the joke, right?
Yeah.
So just me saying I respect your pronouns was enough for some bigoted piece of shit to be like, fuck this comedian. I got to tell him he sucks.
Yeah.
So, you can't let that bother you either, though.
Yeah, I hate negative comments. I just feel like they just come from people that are doing nothing with their lives. And so you're trying to build something and they just want to trash it because
Yeah,
they're just not doing anything.
of course.
They're on the
Yeah.
sidelines, just blah, blah, blah.
Because why
You
else would you
know?
do that? Everybody
Yeah.
watches something they don't like, but most people don't have to make the comment,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like a normal person, I
Yeah.
came across some video of some guy singing. And I didn't think, your singing sucks, pissed me off today. No, I just was like, no, the song's not for me. I don't like that type of music. I kept scrolling.
Right. Yeah.
And it,
Because you're living your life. You're
yeah.
not paying attention to what other people are doing.
Also,
And
why would I want to make that guy feel bad? I don't know this guy.
yeah,
He's
that's
trying.
true.
Other
And
people liked it, so it's
it
probably
takes
good. It's just not for
energy
me.
to do all that, like, to expose like, that takes so much energy and, like, sucks everything out of you to be having a negative comment on somebody. Like, just move on, you know? It's like, whatever.
Grow up.
It's like the Super Bowl. Everybody that ever performs in the Super Bowl, it's like you get all these negative comments. I'm like, "You people are eating wings and pizza, and you're not doing anything with your life. Look at how Usher's dancing."
People like to hate. They do.
They do. It's just yeah. Anything else you wanna say? I think we're, like, past time,
I'm
but
sorry, man.
it's easy to
It's
go
my
past.
fault. I go.
I can make this a whole 3-hour Rogan thing.
I go way too long too. Especially
I could talk all day, but yeah.
yeah, I could too. And I'm exhausted, and which is every day of my life these days. I get a little more long-winded. But no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh, thanks for
I hope people
coming. I
listening
appreciate it.
enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
remember, who the fuck am I? You listen to your heart. Don't follow my advice completely. Come on, what are you doing?
anything you wanna plug in or
Yeah, I do this podcast called Let's Get Done with comedian Jonah Jerkins. It's a lot of fun. We do love each other, but every third or fourth episode, we bicker at each other to a point where people are like, "Fuck, are they okay?" Um, he's great, dude. He's really funny, and it's a fun podcast to do. I also do my own podcast, the Joe Kilgallon podcast.
Mhm.
Also, check out Life and Death on YouTube. If you like it, share with your friends, give it a like, leave a positive comment. That'd be great.
Yes.
Other than that, yeah, thanks for
Cool.
having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you. Cheers.